great pleasure and an honor to read His Holiness message in this presentation. The Dalai Lama message. I welcome the Journalists and Writers Foundation and its Cultural Foundation and its global partners in organizing the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs Roundtable discussion in New York, USA. This month to discuss critical issues to promote and protect the state's sustainable peace and development. In particular, I commend you for making the role of interfaith community as one of the focus areas for the discussion this year. There is need for religious communities to be more positively involved with society. If we look at the UN's and SDGs, we can see that fundamentally they all have to do with bringing happiness to each and every human being on this earth. The UN has rightly outlined that this can be achieved through ending poverty and other segregations, improving health, reducing inequality.
To the esteemed organizers and participants, the 9th Annual SDGs Conference, I extend my warm greetings and heartfelt gratitude to the Journalists and Writers Foundation and all global partners for convening this important gathering in New York. Your commitment to discussing critical issues surrounding sustainable peace and development with a specific emphasis on the role of interfaith communities is admirable. In the pursuit of the Sustainable Development Goals set out by the United Nations, we find a reflection of the shared values of humanity that transcend cultural, religious, and national boundaries. These goals are fundamentally rooted in the quest for dignity and well-being for every individual on this planet. From addressing the eradication of poverty and inequality to ensuring the health of our communities and protecting our environment, these goals remind us of our collective responsibility to foster a more livable world where everyone can thrive. The principles of these goals, ending poverty, promoting peace, and caring for our planet, are not mere aspirations. They resonate deeply with Islamic teachings. As the Quran states, and do good. Indeed, Allah loves the doers of good. Quran chapter 2, verse 195. It is our duty to act justly and compassionately, recognizing the interconnectedness of humanity. God also says, we have certainly dignified the children of Adam and carried them on the land and sea, and provided for them of the good things, and preferred them over much of what we have created with definite preference. Quran chapter 17, verse 70. Therefore, to serve the dignity of God's creation is to serve God. Our world faces many challenges: climate change, social injustice, and rising inequalities. In these challenging times, this conference represents a significant opportunity for people of diverse faiths to unite for a just, inclusive, and sustainable future. I see it as a collective effort and an active prayer by its participants to cultivate altruism, love, and the spirit of selflessness while striving to uproot anger and greed from our hearts and societies, and I applaud all who contributed to it. The Sustainable Development Goals speak to our core beliefs in justice and compassion. They remind us that we are called to serve not only our own communities, but the humanity, as taught by Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who said, "The best people are those who are most beneficial to others." I offer my prayers and best wishes for your efforts at this crucial conference. May your discussions bear fruit, and may you leave this gathering inspired to carry forth your commitment to serve humanity within the framework of the lofty goals set out by the United Nations. With respect, Fethullah Gulen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kalash, for this inspiring message delivered by Fethullah Gulen. Now we have our third inspiring message by Reverend Chalisa Suli from Australia, and I would like to welcome Zehra Özdemir to read her message.
Thank you. I'm honored to be conveying the message of Reverend Chalisa Suli. It is with great honor that I extend in the Uniting Church and Australia's full support for the vital work being done at this year's United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Conference, particularly this roundtable session on interfaith contributions to SDG achievements. In an era marked by complex global challenges, this gathering presents a critical opportunity to harness the collective power of our diverse faith communities in the pursuit of a more just, inclusive, and sustainable future. From our Christian faith perspective, the principles that underpin the SDGs, ending poverty, promoting peace, safeguarding our planet, are not merely policy aspirations, but moral imperatives. They resonate profoundly with our scriptural call to love our neighbors, care for creation, and seek justice for the most vulnerable. The Uniting Church in Australia has long been committed to advocating for human dignity and stewardship of the earth, and we are pleased to join with other faith traditions in this shared vision for a better world. The SDGs matter deeply to people of faith because they reflect our core beliefs in justice, compassion, and peace. They call us to act not only in the interest of our own communities, but in the service of the global common good. As faith leaders, we must be both courageous advocates and humble servants, promoting values that transcend individual traditions and contribute to the flourishing of all of humanity. It is in this spirit that we commend the inclusion of interfaith dialogue in this year's conference, and we pledge our ongoing commitment to working with all who seek to build a more peaceful, sustainable world. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Affinity and the Journalist and Writers Foundation for creating this platform for reflection and action. Together, we can create a future where no one is left behind, and where our shared efforts towards the SDGs pave the way for a world rooted in peace, justice, and the dignity of all people. With blessings and in solidarity, Reverend Chalisa Suli. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zehra. Dear guests, these messages remind us that fostering dialogue and mutual understanding across diverse faith traditions is not just a noble endeavor, but it's an essential for addressing challenges that we face in our world today. Now, we would like to move into our panel discussion, and we have a diverse speakers, interfaith leaders, experts, practitioners who will delve deep into the crucial role of interfaith dialogue. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing our moderator today, Mr. Noel James Debien, on the very right. And he is a senior specialist producer and presenter at the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. His extensive expertise in producing and presenting programs that explore the profound narratives of human experience will inspire our discussion. We have the booklets. We will have their biographies. Please take a look at it. Sir, the floor is yours. Mr. Noel, thank you. So let's give a round of applause.
No need to applaud you, I wouldn't be terrible. I begin by just giving you a little bit more context. I do work in public broadcasting, so similar to America, PBS or BBC or the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. We are owned by the Australian Parliament, but we have a religion unit, and I'm part of the religion and ethics unit. And it is our job to reflect back to Australians who they are, regardless and without choice of preference for any religion. So it is our job to try to be impartial and accurate in representing communities within the Australian media and context. And that's what we try to do, very much we try to do. And I might say, Chalisa Suli, for example, I know her. We've actually made a documentary program on her, and everything that she's just said is absolutely true. The Uniting Church is an example of a church which has brought together Presbyterians, Congregationalists, and Methodists into one faith. And it is an example of the you call it the ecumenical movement. The next step is, of course, interfaith. But they have been driving the unity of churches rather than the division of churches. And so I've looked at your biographies of each of you, and I've only met one of them so far. But I won't repeat what's in the book, but I will give some context of what I think is about to happen. Don't feel obliged, speakers, to do what I asked. You present what you're prepared for. But you do know from the book that we're looking at four major things: breaking the cycle of poverty, health and wellness through interfaith efforts, education and equality through interfaith partnerships, and then peaceful, just and inclusive societies through interfaith dialogue, which is the sort of thing that we do in the program area I'm working in here. So we're very interested in that because it's about social cohesion. And I will also say, if you weren't at the meeting last night, in Australia, we have no preferred religion. There isn't one. There is no established faith. You might hear people say it's a Christian country. Well, that's just people saying things. Our constitution does not say that. Our constitution has no favourite religion. It is not like Britain, where there was an established church, which I'll make a comment in a moment. It is not like that at all. And we don't have bishops who become members of parliament. We don't. And in fact, our members of parliament across all faiths, including increasingly Muslim members of parliament, because through immigration from Lebanon, from lots of other places, we have an increasing Muslim population and a significant Jewish population as well, by the way. It's quite significant still in Australia. Not everybody is made Alia in Australia because they quite like the place. They do, although many have. So I might begin by just saying a few things in relation to each of the speakers before I ask Cinde to speak first. You know from your documentation that Cinde is the chair of Religions for Peace in the United Kingdom. And that is, she'll be able to tell you much more of that more accurately than I can, but you have a lot in your notes. But I will say that the country that she comes from does have an established religion, as I just said. There is a state religion of the Anglican Church. The monarch is the head of the church. Their bishops do become members of the Houses of Lords, not all bishops, but many of them do. This is a system which outsiders might criticise as almost a theocracy, actually. You might dare to say that much, but it is absolutely embedded in the state that that's the case. In that place, 46% of the people are Christians, and they say they're Christians. About 19% Anglican, so only about 1/5 of the country is now Anglican. It's decreasing quite rapidly. It's changing. The nation is changing. And that means when you look at it, Catholics are 8% now, which would have been unthinkable 500 years ago in the Reformation, but that's what's happened with Irish immigration, Polish immigration, all the people through EU have moved into England. So that's changing Christian denominations. But as you know, from India and the other possessions England had, it has an increasing Sikh, Hindu and Muslim population, which is now significantly part of the networks. So the sorts of things, and I'm saying 6.5% Muslim, which is a lot of people among 67 million. It's a significant group. And you will see that within the Parliament of England, that's what's happening. So as Cinde speaks, that's the sort of background that should be coming from. And I might do them one by one rather than give you a whole list of four. And before I introduce each, I'll do that. And Cinde, I invite you to speak to us about your experience, with some reference hopefully to those four major points of poverty, wellness and interfaith efforts, education and equality, peaceful, just and inclusive societies. And I invite you to come up to talk this.
Well, may I take this opportunity to thank the Journalist and Writers Foundation and Mr. Mehmet. That's a kind invitation to let us come from a religious background of a country that we say that we have an established state. And let me assure you that England is, or the UK is not static, and it has changed. So, on a guess. It's very heartwarming to see so many people paying so much attention to the sustainable development goals, because and in so many different ways, it's particularly good to see young people being interested and convicted, and the energy is very heartwarming to those of us who are treading on this uphill struggle to bring the world to a better place as we all live in it. So in my presentation, there are two sections. One is how we work, how we plan our work, and the second section would be what the UK does in terms of setting up those goals. So I'm told that this will work. If you hear me say RFP UK, that's because that's the short form. It stands for Religions for Peace, United Kingdom. And this opportunity is for us to put this name out so that you will click on it and realize that that's what we're standing for. We are an independent national chapter of the global Religions for Peace movement. Our headquarters is in the Church Center in the UN Plaza here in New York. And UK is a constituent member of Religions for Peace Europe. So we've got international, we've got Europe, and then we've got the national chapters. So we recognize that lots of people think that religions are often as the cause for tensions and conflicts, and particularly when the society has frustrations and they project that frustration onto differences in religious beliefs. We've seen this recently with the UK riot, when emotions boil over and blames are laid without critical thinking. They're just shooting blames without due cause. So we choose collaboration over conflict. However, Religions for Peace founders 5 decades ago believed that the faith and belief communities can find common ground to work together to bring positive impact. So we concentrate on the problem-solving abilities of the religions rather than on the religious beliefs themselves. But this is a very rather simplistic map to say that we are one of the 90 national chapters. We work in 6 regions, and we're hoping to form an ever more dynamic inter and multi-faith coalition. So the way we work, is that we have these world conferences. Right there is our last conference. I think we had more than 900 members from all over the world, from those 90 chapters that I was talking about. They take place periodically because each session reaches out to set focus and strategies to tackle contemporary issues, because the issues change as time goes on, for our global movement. And we believe that peace is built on justice, and justice, for that to be meaningful, has to be sustainable. So we come full circle. Peace must be sustainable to last. The 6 priorities, they are global priorities. The top are all the SDGs. We choose whichever we can tackle in our own context, and we match them. So it's a deliberate effort. It's not a coincidence. And we see these goals as clear, actionable, and they can deliver results. And we incorporate them as vital components to our mission for peace. In the UK in particular, this is our modus operandi. We have 3 sections. We catalyze, we convene, and we collaborate. We actively spark the interests in amongst our faith and belief communities. We resource and convene projects with the resources that we have for our projects and programs. We then actively seek collaboration to reach the wider engagement of faith communities as well as the civic society. Of particular wish is to motivate single faith organizations to work with each other, because it's in working together that we see each other's values and convictions, know each other as people and not as labels. And that would hopefully bring our dialogue into action. So, working from the understanding that people of faith share a lot in common, the categorizing phase of presented project ideas, we develop our own programs. These are the global goals. Those are the UK streams, if you will, and then we develop programs based on needs and wants of the faith society, faith communities that we work with. And our actions hopefully would develop into delivering the SDG goals that we plan to do. So this is what it looks like from the ground on upwards for us. So once we identify the focus of the programs, we convene the events and we record the contents and experiences. So such as the Be the Change and Eco Action booklets, we make them into a resource so that it's available online. And although people may not be able to attend our events, they will be online accessible for all to take advantage of. So we have just built this platform. It's very new. It needs help. We invite collaboration from different people. There are two ways of helping us. One is by identifying what we want to do, take our already designed programs, bring it into the faith and belief communities so that they can take off that and develop that. And the second way is that they can come up with their own thinking, their own proposals. We are a foundation. We can help them, we can fund them, and we can take the work onto a new direction. So they're not just confined with what RFP UK wants to do, but also with what the faith and belief communities believe the society needs. So another focus in our collaboration drive, again, as I said, is to help the professionals and volunteers to work together, for older and younger people also to work together. So hopefully this new platform that we're forging was set up so that we can find each other in our programs. So you meet people that you do not necessarily meet normally, and that makes new opportunities for us all to be able to grow in both directions. So may I highlight some of our programs? The humanitarian projects are the forefront of our efforts. At the outbreak of war in Ukraine, UK funded a rescue mission, and our partner, Save a Child UK, brought groups of orphans, many with complex medical conditions, with their state-appointed guardians, so this is done properly, to the UK host families and our hosting schemes. Some of them will stay, some of them can elect to go back, and that is continuous work on that front. The UK Interfaith Youth Network has been working with Hillsong Church UK to provide a refugee integration program. And initially, this program was funded by the Religions for Peace International Humanitarian Fund, but later on in a national capacity to help refugees understand the multi-faith and multicultural nature of the UK society. Many come to the UK and think that we are mostly Christian and that they are fearful. You know, like they come to a new place, they don't know anyone, they have very limited means, and where do they go? Then hopefully our programs will allow them to meet each other, from 26 different countries we have, and we can give them a chance to learn about how the UK society works, give them the opportunity to meet each other, so that they can create a mutual support network amongst themselves. Fortunately, our young people, very active, and they've become interested in this work. It's not easy work because it's quite complex to try to help a bunch of people that we don't know, and where do they come from, how do you contact them, and all of that. So we organize webinars with the Hillsong Church because they've done it, and we've shared that with the young people who are interested to bring that into their own faith and belief communities so that they can do those little pockets of support network for the people and themselves meaningfully grow into maturity and become leaders in their own communities. We give also the refugee guests the opportunity to volunteer for us, asking them to manage English lessons, classes, visits, make video material, to prep them for the work that they choose to do, so that when their papers come through, we can point them to the correct direction so that they have some help in getting the work that they so long for and to start a new life. Another initiative we have is the Dignity of Women. This is the gender equality strand of projects that we have. We have a UK Women of Faith network, and we advocate for gender equality while promoting religious literacy. And you see the 9 panels in the middle. They are scriptural texts addressing what they think of the women. And I was so surprised to find out that actually people don't necessarily know what their own faith, talk about women and how they view the women's role in the society. This is an exhibition that we want to be ongoing in collecting more and more scriptural texts, yes, but people's own experiences, how their faith had informed their choices in taking their work forward, so that they are life stories as well as just scriptural texts. We also have, normally after each of the exhibitions, we have discussion sessions. And women of different faiths would get together and they talk about it and they find out what they don't know about their own faith, each other's faiths. And they become, again, a support network for each other. And fostering the deep understanding of each other's faiths. And the friendships have opened up opportunities for further engagement between peoples from all walks of life also. We are also super lucky to be supported by male allies. I say that we are lucky because it is really an uphill struggle. And we are lucky because we have them. It's speaking out for gender equality because these mostly male religious leaders can be influential figures to instill the concept of equality and the spiritual nature of that conviction to the young believers. I cannot stress enough how that has changed people's views as they approach the work that we want to do in this area. So the UKIYN, UK Interfaith Youth Network, had an Eco Peace Cafe. This is about the environment, and young people are very focused on the environment issue, thankfully, and they are very active in these programs. This Eco Peace Cafe ran 10 themed webinars with international speakers. We give talks from water management to sustainable architecture and many more related topics. And we also run planned facilitator training sessions so that the young people can facilitate their own discussion events, and they can step up to lead discussions, and they can initiate planning for active participations in the same area or areas of their own choice. It then falls on us to support them, give them resources in their endeavor, bringing results and inspire further dialogue and action. So this year, we have following the Confucius philosophy of disciplining the self, taking responsibility for our homes, engaging the community, and then impacting the society. So it's a 4-step progress that we want everybody to be able to take. We are running the Eco Action program that you see here. People will feel overwhelmed because the environmental issue is too vast, and they often say, well, what do I do? Except go buy, organic food. What else is there to do? So our webinar speakers explain the issues and discuss possibility of action plans. So we've done checklists, what you can do as a person, what you can do at home, what you can do if you are a decision maker in your community, and hopefully we can get together to make some kind of societal impact. We also have a strand of work in the inner well-being, one of the easier elements of sustainability to neglect, that is of the self. We have been running an inner well-being across faiths program. We share the meditation practices from different faiths, and our speakers tell of how a strengthened inner core can help them live a fuller and more meaningful life. Inner faith, outer action. It's not just about shutting the door on the world, it's about entering into the society to make a difference. So we foster partnerships. Hopefully, as the foundation, we have the reach and the means to do that. The international campaign for abolition of nuclear weapons is something that our international office does, but UK wants to join in our own right as a member. And our community post on our website is a place where people can post their activities, and that can reach a wider audience than just their own website. So to conclude, these are our global priorities. On the top are the UK strands of action, and we are very mindful to deliver all the results as we set out to do. And last but not least, the Peace Builders Network. This is also very new. It's very difficult to find each other. This is hopefully some place you can enter and list yourself with your public-facing information so that people can find you. There's a search engine on it, so you can find each other by areas of interest or work, and we can then talk about how to collaborate. And I extend our sincere invitation for everybody to join us so that we can build upon our goodwill and collaborate. Together, we are stronger. This is our QR code. Ooh.
I'll get it.
All right. The last one, please. Right. That's our QR code. We're all there. So look us up, see which areas you're of interest to talk to us about, and welcome everybody. Together we'll deliver the SDG goals together.
Cindy, I won't say much to that except I'll just add one thing that's worth knowing about the context that Cindy comes from. In the United Kingdom, religious studies is required in schools, but it's interfaith religious studies. So there is a literacy within England among students. And I was the head of religion in a school many years ago in a prior career. And when we looked for textbooks to teach Australians from, it was England we looked to. They were very fine texts, and they covered interfaith stuff in a very erudite way, which kids could relate to. And I mean from 7 right through to 12. So that's an aspect of literacy. And I remember that, as you said, Cindy, when you're trying to find the things in common between faiths, one of the important things is having literacy about the other faith, by what it is they believe and what they don't believe. That idea, and that's part, of course, what we're all doing here at the moment. And it is, I'll ask you some questions later about that, but moving along, our next panelist, Dr. Joan Hernández Serret. You know from your notes, he's Professor of Sociology, University Internacional de Catalunya, so Spanish, Catholic by background, Spain, population of about 47 million, half of them about Catholics, 35% say non-practicing, only 16% practicing, 2.4% of other faiths, including Islam, Protestant Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, and so on, but 44.1% identify as atheists in Spain too. That's what they're dealing with now. There are about 2.5 million Muslims in Spain, despite an expulsion historically, and despite the expulsion of Jews historically. So there's that history that comes with Spain as well, as it does with England, as it does with Germany, as it comes from many places. And so I invite now Dr. Joan Hernández Serret to speak to us and tell us some of their experience. I think. Thank you very much.
First of all, I try to be strict with the time because they give me 10 minutes, and so I try to be more schematic in my presentation. Okay, it's necessary. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me and this conference. Yes, my family is a Catholic, but my father is Protestant, and so it's a strange situation in Spain because the diversity in my family is ecumenical, and so living in these two phases, how to share, how to living inside the home and but my mother is Catholic, my father is Protestant, and now at the moment I'm Catholic, my mother in this case. So now I'm going to introduce briefly, because I think it's very interesting that the presentation for today, three concepts, three aspects: interreligious dialogue, SDGs, and society, and how to combine these three. Not only in my background in Spain, more than that, because one of the different sides, what is, as you mentioned, I'm professor of sociology at the university, and also I'm the general secretary of Religions for Peace in Europe, and so for 4 years I focus more in this relationship about interreligious dialogue and SDGs. I think that it's very important for introduce all of you about what is the concept, and you understand well the role of and the importance that today my colleagues to share with you their experience in these fields. So let me. No, this is. Okay.
Well, you should hold that.
It's here. Okay.
Please say next.
Okay. Okay. And so the moderator introduced, he talked about the importance of religion in our society. And so, yes, as sociology for the background, I think it's important to understand the function of the religions in our society. This is not for discuss today because it's another meeting, but of course there are different and scientific person that to talk about the religious and interreligious dialogue is necessary in our society, especially in terms of cohesion, in terms of relationship, dialogue, avoid extremism, etc. But my first question it was how to the interreligious initiative can contribute, because I focus more in the harmonious societies in terms of we cannot talk about the happiness, but yes, the happiness is part of the harmonious society. And so my first question it was how the interreligious dialogue, the interreligious initiative can contribute this to produce more harmonious society, more cohesion, and thank you. And the first I used in 2019, yes, when I started this, I did a study about the SDGs relationship with the interreligious dialogue, and I used the SDG because the SDGs is a good guidelines for clarify the mission, the action of what the interreligious dialogue are doing in our world. And the interreligious dialogue is usually not to do the action between they want to cover some SDGs, specific SDGs, because it's not moving for this measure. It's not for the fashion, it's not for the measure. It could be in that. But on the other side, it's interesting to classify and to reflect about what they are doing in terms of they cover or not all the SDGs, in which SDG will cover than another, especially because I think that one of the more important points that we need is establish a SDGs map in different fields, not only in the interreligious dialogue field, because if we don't have the SDGs map, we don't know exactly what they're doing, the people, and what is the evolution of that. And so it was my first thinking. And so as interreligious dialogue movement and interreligious dialogue, we need to create this SDGs map. And today I'm going to show you about it. And so before we think, and so I think that this map is a good tool for designing strategies and road maps, especially for the scientifics, for the administration, and itself for the communities itself, for understanding well what they are doing. Next, please. And so this result, I can to emphasize that this is ending in almost 5 years old. And so I encourage that other people or foundation want to continue with this study. I think it's very interesting because now we have a picture 5 years ago, and now it would be interesting to have another picture and to looking for how is the progressing. And so I analyzed total 420 international organizations. I took international organizations that established more working in one countries. Yeah, there are international organizations, the national organization. Yeah, and so we focus in international organization. So I'm looking for especially what are they interesting, what is the action, what is the target, because sometimes it's not the same. The next is the goals, because they describe why they are doing this and how they do, and especially also, of course, the typology of the interreligious dialogue, because there are different typologies of members that promote interreligious dialogue. And there are dialogues, interreligious dialogue for Abrahamic dialogue, for karmic dialogue, and for promoting NGOs, etc. Next, please. And so the first result, and very important, is that every SDGs is covered by the interreligious organization. There are no SDGs that are not covered for any one organization around the world. And this is very important because it's the first reflection that if one organization can cover one SDG, all the organization can cover this SDG, or all the SDGs. It's not incompatible to cover some SDGs for the interreligious dialogue. This is the first important. So the next. This is the map, okay? This is the SDGs map. This is what they cover more in this case. As you see in the app, the SDG that is covered more is the 16, of course. There's the peace, justice, and the aptitude, because it's the ADM of the organization. And so this is proper. The interreligious dialogue without peace, justice, the focus on that does not exist. And so this is. It's usually that currently that the people are involved and engaged more in the actions in this perspective, but it's not unique. There are none. Of course, the 11, more the sustainability in our cities, and the 4, the education. Yeah, and you see that there are two figures, two numbers, because one is the goals and another is the action. Because this is more complex that I didn't show you, but the goals. Maybe it's only in the long terms, and the action is more in the middle, and so they are combined within, but this is forward. The next, please. So the first is that I don't see they belong there. That the SDG 16 is more important in all the interreligious dialogue because it promotes inclusivity, the justice, and the freedom. Without it's necessary justice for. To establish the dialogue between equals. It was not equal, they are domination. You have domination to the other, is not the equal, and so it's not the freedom of this dialogue. And so it's in the interreligious dialogue to need that the people to talk face to face or in equal conditions. Yeah, and so how I use it? I collect different items and target improvement dialogue, etc. Analysis interest, violence, conflicts. This is what I classified. This is the SDG list. The least addressed SDG, and especially the SDG 7 for clean energy, the 12 responsible consumption and production, and 14 the life below water. Maybe in another session we can talk why the life below water is the less covered, but it's on to thinking that the water. Below water is not accessible for the interreligious dialogue because we are rooted more in the earth and less inside the water, and so this is the least SDG that they covered. Well, if I put together, because all these SDGs are connecting, as we know, there are subcategories, of course, all these the society, the majority, less the economy, and less the SDG 17, okay, and the next. So there are more SDGs that covered, but not depend on the GDP, because sometimes people say, because the SDG is only for the rich countries. The next, please. No, it's not that. And so I looking for. Yeah, no, it's not for it. It's not depend of the is one country is more rich or not. It's covered the same. Sometimes the difference is the the form of the manner, because some the more rich to promote more encounters, and the less trained to provoke more training courses, and so it's the way, but not as the SDG cover. The next, please. So after that, I see that the SDG also, there are application proposals like opportunities to encounter, action between entities, and start a new organization, because sometimes it's covered. And sometimes some SDGs are sharing between some religions and another is not sharing. And so it's very important but to understand and to promote, maybe or no, but what happened. The next, please. This is, for example, because is a natural way sometimes, but sometimes it's not natural way. I participate in one study about SDG. One SDG is not a natural way. Some people, the religious community say, but I don't know nothing about this, and so that, and sometimes depend on the SDGs and to produce more projects to participate. So that is important that I classify the different SDGs, but not only the religious community are involved in the promotion, the SDGs and interreligious dialogue. There are also NGOs, informal governmentals, administration, it's promoted. And so this is very important. Also the institution of investigation, yes, universities, because this is not only the responsibility to promote the interreligious dialogue in terms of SDG is only for the religious community, also all the society, because why not the administration, in our case in Spain, there are office for interreligious dialogue that promote that there are encounters. And this is one of the way that strange more the message that the religious community itself to claim or to share with another. It's only 3 slides. And so now the promoting interreligious dialogue is a shared responsibility, because it's very important for our society different sections. This is why our project, or the Erasmus Plus project, is focused on that, promoting this. And the other hand, the people don't have one hand. No, I am journalist, but I know faith. I only professor of the university, but I know faith. Because sometimes it's sharing. There are more than one hands. And so why not to combine this? The next, please. And one of the this project that is the Erasmus project that we worked with 5 universities with difference. The major university, there are 3 of them are from Europe. Albania is from Europe, and there are Albania, and there are Austria, there are Spain, Malaysia, and also Malaysia is involved in this project, because this not only we not to focus only the interreligious approach, but also the intercultural approach, because it's important. There are people from different faiths, yes, but our main is to create first this network, not interreligious dialogue only, also intercultural dialogue, because in our this facing global challenge is to focus more on that. And this is the last. And also to create, for example, we established an open Friends of Erasmus, open network, but people to want to promote, to follow, and to encourage in this perspective. We are creating an interreligious education and contents for teachers and for our society. The next and the last. So for conclusion, first, knowing the map of SDG is vital for established priorities. The SDGs can to work as the roadmaps, and it's necessary for all society, and not only for individuals. So the second is all the SDGs will be uncovered for the interreligious dialogue. So peace is a fundamental. The education is the key for society for transformation. That's why one of the reasons that a lot of interreligious dialogue are promoting. And third, the sustainability must to be in our hands, because we are living in our city, and the sustainability we can incorporate in our daily life. And also the SDGs is for strange relationship, and one of them is the universities can to cover to promote the SDGs, the network, as this project of the Erasmus project as an example. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I would add on there, which is worth knowing in context again, the Catholic Church until 1965 did not engage in religious dialogue. Well, it did. It would explain to you why you needed to be Catholic and why you were wrong. That's how religious dialogue worked until 1965. And in 1965, there was a document of the Council, Second Vatican Council, called Nostra Aetate, which is in our time.
Yeah.
And this document principally said anti-Semitism was unacceptable among Catholics, and it began to reverse Catholic anti-Semitism. But the same document then said, yes, but you have to talk to Buddhists as well, and Muslims, because you will find they are seeking God too, and they are seeking in good faith. And so it's only been since 65 now, that's 35, 50, nearly 60 years, that the Catholic Church has engaged. That's 1.4 billion people. And as you were just pointing out, Erasmus is a tertiary project, really. It's talking to intellectuals and how to establish these. And there are so many levels you can do it, whether it's the local church, the local mosque, whether it's an intellectual level or it's a government level. There's all sorts of levels you have to persuade. And in a church as big as the Catholic Church, it is rather slow to turn around, I've got to say. And it is changing because, the Pope put out the document on Laudato Si, which is on the environment. If you read Laudato Si, it looks like he'd actually cheated and read the SDGs and put them all in there. And so that's a synchronicity which is going on. And so now he's said to 1.4 billion people, you have to do this too. And so it's embedding in different faiths. I think it's very interesting to take away from that. But moving on, our next speaker, Associate Professor Genti Kruja, a Professor of Sociology at Bedër University, College in Albania. You know from you have his biography there, and I'll just say a few things about Albania. In its context, 59% of the population is approximately Muslim, about 38% Christian, 2.5% atheist or agnostic, very low agnostic rate, not like England, not like Australia. Baha'i small group, and the World Congress of Jews estimated there are 40 or 50 left in Albania. That's about it. Its constitution says there is no official religion now. It says that there is equality in religious communities and there is a duty to protect religious coexistence. But there is also, I don't know whether you want to talk about this or not, but there's a 2016 law that said, since the post-communist time, we need to return the property and the goods of those religious organizations that were sequestered under communist government. And of course, to do the SDGs, you have resources. And that's an ongoing situation in Albania. And they're public schools, they're secular, and the law prohibits instructions in tenets of religion. You can't actually do religious study in their schools. Quite different from the UK, for example, quite different from Australia. And so now I ask you to come forward and tell us from your perspective.
Thank you very much, dear moderator, dear Mr. Mehmet, dear friends and colleagues. I am very happy to be with you today, with people from different countries, cultures, and regions. I will try to share you a presentation with a lot of pictures. It's like a digital exhibition to understand better interfaith harmony and dialogue in Albania. Yes. My first part of my presentation is the historic aspect. In Albania, I have two largest monotheist religions, Islam and Christianity, and 5 different official religious communities recognized by the state. Next, please. Both Abrahamic religions, Christianity and Islam, have existed together with their respective communities for centuries. Albania has been the meeting and division point of the two greatest Middle Age empires, the Roman and Byzantine Empire. It was the place in which the authorities of the Catholic and Orthodox Church separated. Islam also has coexisted in Europe with Christianity and Judaism for several centuries. Next, please. This is the oldest picture that we found in the state archive that you can see religious leaders from different religious communities, Christian and Muslims, with Albanian people that are celebrating the first anniversary of Independent Day in Albania on 28 November 1913, and more years ago. You can see the Grand Mufti of Albania, Haji Dibra. At the same time, he was the first chairman of the Parliament of Albania after Independent Day. Next, please. These are also some pictures from 20s and 30s years of last century, that you can see different the religious leaders and the people that are celebrating most important day of the country. This is a picture from Old Bazaar of Shkodra or Skuteri in North Albania. During Ramadan, the Catholics closed their restaurants and bars before communism period to respect Muslims brothers during Ramadan holy month. Shkodra's Old Bazaar also the most important day of Old Bazaar was Sunday, as Sunday was a holiday for Christian Muslims. Muslim authorities changed the Bazaar day to Wednesday and Saturday. It was this symbolism which turned into a work of burning painting that we presented to Pope Francis during his visit to Albania 10 years ago in September 2014 by the Muslim community of Albania. It is a big pleasure also for me to be part of this moment and event. In the speech of Monsignor San Giovanni, the head of Albanian Orthodox Church, held in 1937 on the occasion of the funeral ceremony of Haji Dibra, first Grand Mufti of Albania, we can see the maximum appreciation that Orthodox leader gives to Muslim leaders. His speech during this ceremony, published by Muslim journal Zaninat in this year in 1937. Also, on December 30, 1940, when Father George Fichte, a Catholic priest, a very famous writer, was in Albania. When he died, everyone, regardless of religion, gathered at his grave. One of the most moving speeches was that of Hafiz Ali Kraya, a famous imam and mufti in Albania in this period. And also, we had a model of protecting of 3,000 Hebrews during the Holocaust in Second World War, that the Muslim Albanian people protected them in their houses. Unfortunately, after many centuries that we lived together, the atheist communist regime, which was settled in Albania in 1944, began a savage violence towards religion, making an anti-religious propaganda and persecuting many clergymen and believers that you can see some churches and mosques during this destroying in this period. On the top and the left, you can see a museum of atheism that established in Albania during this period to promote atheism and philosophy of Marxism and Leninism. After many years in communism regime, we had the reopening of the first mosque and the first church in Albania in 1990, after 23 years. Was an expression of harmony and brotherhood of religions confronting the communist regime. Christian and Muslim youth were the ones who opened the gate of freedom of faith together in November 1990. It was Hafiz Abikochi was first sentenced in the preach of Juma prayer of November 16 was to say, "Dear Muslim, Orthodox and Catholic brothers and sisters." He was also for 20 years in the prison during communist period. You can see in the picture of Mother Teresa with visible culture that we participated together in different ceremonies during this year in 1991 after reopening religious institution. Next. The second part of my presentation is Interfaith Harmony and Collaboration in Albania after communism period. Such you know, Albania has a long history in interreligious coexistence and living together, but it's very important to re-promote again with different issues such as religious education and some different ways to promote to young generation. Albania also in 2 decades after communism period visited by 2 different popes, Pope John Paul II in 1993 and Pope Francis in 2014. Next, please. Yes, in 2007, Albanian traditional religious leaders established an Interreligious Council of Albania, and now 5 years ago, we accepted in the council the fifth community, this Protestant community. There are 5 religious communities, next please, that are part of the council. Muslim community of Albania, Orthodox Church, Catholic Church, the World Baptist Community, and Evangelical Alliance of Albania. We have some boards, the presidency board, there are 5 religious leaders, and every religious leader is leading this council for 1 year. We have also the executive board with 10 people from 5 different religious communities, and now 30% of this board are women. And we established 5 years ago Department of Women and Department of Youth with representatives from different religious communities. Youth department and women department are very active on different interfaith activities. We have also international partners is also making an important contribution to support families of returns from conflict zones in Iraq and Syria to find solution to radicalism and violent extremism through special programs. Next, please. Next. These are some meetings as a national consultation of the all boards of Albania Interreligious Council. And the council has 3 awards in 2018. Interreligious Council is valued with award Debien for human rights in Poland. And the second one in 2022, the Honor of the Nation from the President of Albania. And the third one at the same year is a honor certificate from Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Austria. This award is about the work of interfaith youth and women for a humanitarian project with Religions for Peace for the earthquake zone in Albania, incorporated with the Religions for Peace. These are some conference and meeting with Religions for Peace in different cities and countries, such as Cinde explained. And the most important event of the council was the 10th World Assembly of Religions for Peace held in Indao 5 years ago. And last year, we organized a meeting and forum with European national interreligious bodies in Religions for Peace in Tirana. And this year, 2 days ago, we realized the Interfaith Forum for Democracy in Athens. And the next day, last Sunday, we organized a meeting with Religions for Peace Europe, the council from different countries of Europe. The most important activity on interfaith dialogue in Albania is cooperation between academical institutions, between 3 universities, Bedër University that where I am teaching in Islamic studies, the Catholic University and Logos University established by Orthodox Church. Next, please. We have the good cooperation between these 3 theological departments, Islamic Sciences, Orthodox Theology, and Catholic Theology. And from 9 years, we organized 13 different symposiums on common topics such as, next please, these are open lectures on the history of religion. We are inviting a professor from each department to explain their religion. These are some visiting in church and mosque with the students of theological departments. We think that it's very important to promote interfaith dialogue during their studies, because now they are students, but in the future they should be priests, imam, teachers, and professor in their theological institution. Here's some picture from different symposium. In this picture on the left, you can see the picture from former prison during communism period, and now it is the Museum of Memorial, and the students from the theological department pray together for peace. And this is online during pandemic. Next, please. Next. Yes. And such a Professor Joan explained, we have a collaboration between universities as an Erasmus Plus project. This project born after our collaboration as Studies for Peace Europe with our councils from different countries to promote interfaith education on protecting the environment for climate change, etc. We are now started some activities with religious schools of 5 religious communities in our university. We talk about eco-theology from Islamic and Christian perspective in cooperation with these universities. We established an eco club with students of university. Yes. Next, please. And then the last year, we published a book in Albanian language as the history of interfaith dialogue with Prism Dialogue Institute. This is a word about interfaith dialogue to former dean of Catholic Theology faculty. Yes, this everyone must understand as Muslim and Christian the Trinity and destiny, not only for them, but the entire world from the beginning until its end depend on the variety of beliefs and convictions. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for taking it. I don't know about you, but I was astounded by parts of that, and I thought I knew a lot about religion, but I was not aware that in the 1930s that level of cooperation was happening religiously in Albania. So I think there's something really very much to learn in that presentation. I thank you for it. I will move straight on because we started late owing to the gridlock outside. You've seen it. We have to try to wind up a bit sooner. We would finish now. We're going to go on a little bit more because, of course, we cannot have the last speaker made short, but it means we'll have fewer questions at the end, I'm sorry to say. So next, Dr. Marcel Israel, board member for Religions for Peace in Bulgaria. So a few things about Bulgaria. Jewish, of course, but Bulgaria is about 10 to 20% Muslim. There's dispute over the numbers. Often it happens in places. It's about 69-70% Orthodox. It has small Protestant, Catholic, and Latter-day Saint communities. It has 5% no religion and 4% atheist. And I find that strange, actually. Same as in Bulgaria, not a low atheist number and a low agnostic number after the communist period. Whereas in the West, you find large numbers. Their law requires government to provide funding for all registered religious groups based on a number, self-identified. So there is government support, but there are other aspects. There's a law restricting the wearing of face-covering garments in public places, for example. So there's a mixed thing. And I ask you now, Dr. Marcel Israel, to come and speak to us and tell us some of your experience.
So thank you. Thank you very much. I will follow this picture. Thank you. So we will be talking very briefly about the NGO, the Bulgarian NGO for Interreligious Dialogue. It's a part back, please. Just back, please. This is a part of any Religions for Peace Europe, of this part, any. And our work, our activities on multi-faith, multi-faith and multi-ethnic Bulgaria, and also working for the SDGs. Please. First, my gratitude, and we will talk about here 4 points, 4 very brief points. Yeah, Bulgaria. Bulgaria is a multi-religious and multi-ethnic, very important, also multi-ethnic country, and is a member of the European Union and NATO. During the Second World War, and this is a very important point, Bulgaria was the only country where civil society and religious communities were able to rescue the entire communities of 48,000 Jews and 160,000 Romani, or we say Roma or Romani gypsies, from immediate deportation to the death camps. It's a real miracle. After 45 years of, I would say, harsh communist regime, 44 to 89, today religions and ethnicities in democratic Bulgaria in general, enjoy freedom and respect. The cooperation among different religious communities, however, are not perfect. For example, there is no ecumenical dialogue, not the best one, not the good one, especially from the Bulgarian Christian Orthodox Church, and it must be improved. This is one of our goals in the society of Bulgaria. There are still some ethnic problems in the country. The full recognition of the rights and needs of the Romani gypsy communities, and their full integration into the Bulgarian society still, as we say, leaves a lot of work to be done. Now, this is the famous so-called half square mile of religious tolerance in Sofia, Bulgaria. So in half square mile, there are the 4 religions, the 4, temples, the Christian, the mosque, then the Catholic Church, and the synagogue. It's very nice to see this in Bulgaria. Please, the next one. Now, the NGO, our NGO, is the Bulgarian Forum for Interfaith Dialogue and Partnership. This is Religions for Peace Bulgaria. Was founded 2018 in Sofia, Bulgaria. The members of this interreligious forum are mostly university scientists of different faiths. We don't have religious leaders in this organization for the moment, but some of them are always of different faith communities, are always our guests at different events, conferences, seminars, webinars, roundtables. Education is the last point. I will talk about the professional education we are doing also, professional education topics, interfaith coexistence, combating hate and xenophobia. Moreover, we publish every 2 years of activity a book of articles dedicated to the interfaith dialogue, inviting also authors from other countries. And this is, for example, the volume number 3, 2022. For example, every 2 years a book. The next, please. Yeah, in activities, conferences, and webinars organized by the NGO, our NGO, the most important event is the so-called Harmony in Diversity. This is an international conference which is celebrated every year, important on December 10th, on the occasion of the UN Declaration of Human Rights. from 1948. Now, the organizers of Harmony and Diversity are two entities, the so-called University of Library Studies or Systems, Library Studies Systems and Information Technologies in Sofia, and our NGO. Together, this is one of them. And this is, for example, the invitation last year in December to the participants of this event. Please, the next one. Here are some pictures from the event. For example, last year it was quite good success. Last year, December 2023, we had about 150 participants direct and 15 online. The conference was divided in 3 parallel sessions: religious diversity, ethnic diversity, and cultural diversity, in about 10 smaller halls. 60 papers were presented. Many of them were focused on the practical value of religion. Very important, the practical value of religions in fulfilling the corresponding SDGs. In this case, the SDG 5, 10, 13, 16. So, really working on that. So this was the next one, please. The main goals in the work of this NGO reflect the current life and fate in the country and worldwide. For example, we organized webinars and online interviews during the difficult period of COVID-19. In the pandemic in 2020-2021, the topic was religions a driving force for sustainability and resilience in the pandemic and afterward. We organized this online. Yeah. As a result, the book for proceedings, what we saw before in the picture, was under the title "Religions in the Modern World of Crisis." It was published in 2022 and contains some articles focused on our efforts to overcome the problems in life and religion caused by the pandemic. Yeah. With online, what we did is online worship. For example, one of the topics was online worship and prayer. The second was religions and world's great reset. They spoke about the great reset after the pandemic, after COVID-19. Please, the next one. For example, this one was my contribution. Religions and a driving force, after during the pandemic, the worship. Yeah. Next, please. Here, for example, was one of these events was dedicated to the environment, to the eco. So it was once again about the eco an event. The next one. Now I'm finishing with one of our most important activities is professional training. In religion, professional training. In 2018-19, we, as members of RFP Bulgaria, were invited, some of us were invited to participate in a project launched by Ministry of Education, Bulgaria, the University of Library Studies, and Information Technologies, and the Grand Mufti's Office of the Muslim denomination in Bulgaria. Bulgaria is about between 7 and 8 millions, the population. And our Muslim population is about 800,000. So 13%. So the specialized training was designed for teachers from Turkish-speaking secondary schools. I say secondary, but also high schools. Secondary, then high schools in some areas of Bulgaria, normally in the north and in the south. Shumen, in the south, Jebel and so on. And they have schools, they speak only Turkish. So Turkish speaking secondary schools in some areas who are allowed to teach religion in addition to secular sciences. Imagine, for example, a teacher of biology, but after this training, he can be also teacher also for religions. And it is a very interesting project. To this purpose, an extended course on religions was prepared, including basic knowledge of world religions, as well as the main traditions of different faiths. From my experience as a teacher, I was a teacher in this course also, I gave also my presentation, I can say that it was a unique way of deep interfaith and interethnic dialogue. For us as members of Arabic Bulgaria, those education courses were also a good opportunity to make friends with different faith communities in Bulgaria. I think this was the end. Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you very much for this insightful conversation. I would like to ask a question to Cindy Lee. You know, the recent events started at Southport in the UK, and there has been some riots, some violent protests. We know there is no excuse for violence or hatred, but I'm a British person coming from the BAME background. If we do self-criticize ourselves as the BAME community, what could we do better in order to address and reduce the hatred towards, let's say, immigrant communities like myself or other BAME communities? So what could we do better in order to kind of address and reduce this hatred towards us? I know there is no excuse for hatred and violence, but I want us to self-criticize ourselves and understand what we have done wrong to kind of give way to far right to flourish. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. It's a very poignant question. The society as we know it, the society as we know it, because if you notice, the first reaction of the government is actually to go out and say we condemn the people who are making the violence. And amongst faith communities, we have had the conversation of how to tackle something that comes with such vehemence. Because although the incidence is not pan-country, it's not all over the country, the reaction was. So all of a sudden we see the government being on the opposite side. When they gather to demonstrate, it's not just London, it's all over the country. And if we see people filming the demonstrators who say that we want to protect our people, our children are in danger and things like that. And on the other side, rather than actually being willing to listen to what they have to say, the government came out and said, we condemn. That wouldn't be what we would choose to do. As people of faith, the first thing we would advise people to do, listen to what they say. Why do they have those questions? You would then know that they have no cause because they were using incorrect information. The information, it came up because of those people, the three little girls who, sadly died. But it wasn't because of immigration. It wasn't because of an outsider. The person actually was born in England. The arguments that they used was not correct. And why did they not have the correct information is because we don't actually say, whoa, wait a minute, that's not the correct thing. Let's correct the information that you have before you gather yourself so widely all over England to come into London to say something, to have a feeling that isn't even based on facts. So as journalists and writers, please, help us do this work, because if we just let it run rampant, that kind of incorrect narrative would create a kind of conflict more than it should have been. Immediately, we should have said, the faith communities as well as the government should say, we hear that you have a concern. You have these concerns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's give you the information, whether you are correct in thinking what you were thinking. What are your wants? It's like Brexit. You wanted to chase everybody who is not you out. Does that help? Don't just make something up and think that that's going to solve the problem by chasing out all of the immigrants. Look at where Britain is today after Brexit. I don't even need to go further because I think everybody can see. So in response to your question, what can we do? It's not tolerance. We don't like that word. It's coexistence. When we find a difference in people, let's talk, let's find out why they feel the way they do. Let's also respect their fear and their incorrect information that somehow made it into their brains so that they gang up on those fears that are not necessarily real. Give them the real information. Talk about how to address the problems of you're not having a job, your children not being safe, all those, thought up tensions. And let's try to resolve the fears of both sides. I mean, I have programs that needs to be postponed because the refugees guests that we have don't want to come out. They are fearful of people seeing a busload of immigrants. I have to cancel things, and that is not the way to go forward. So hopefully we will try to gather the people with the help of our journalists and our writers to give that narrative to the wider audience to say, these are the facts. Let's talk about the fears and resolve them. I hope that's... Thank you.
Thanks, Noel, and thank you for that. Thank you for the panel. That was a really interesting discussion. Just following up on what you're saying, Cinde, in relation to the extent of misinformation that we see in the media ecosystem, it sometimes worries me that we put so much responsibility on the journalism community to correct the misinformation. I'm wondering whether you think there's any role for government in the regulation of social media platforms, for example, which are the predominant carriers of mis and disinformation, and whether that's where the greater responsibility lies.
Thank you for that question. It's also a very important question because, as opposed to saying that misinformation is only the responsibility of journalists and writers, I don't know whether it's true all over the place or not. I find that the misinformation goes a lot further than the correct information. So there is correct information. It just doesn't go as far. So whether it's the role of the government to actually make rules to control that, which is very touchy because what do you control, what do you not control, who decides what to control and what not to control? It's almost like a citizen's response that they're the people who promulgate the incorrect information ought to also take that responsibility. And I'm not trying to advertise, but I think one of the programs that I'm trying to set up is to talk about how AI manipulates people. And the young people need to know when they open up their Facebook or whatever, what comes up to them. It's because they think you want to do that. Now, the people who manipulate what you see on your social media, they are making money. And that gets me really, really angry because they are making money out of perpetuating the lies. I don't know, I don't have a solution, but I think the way that I want to fight back is by telling people how that happens, why it happens. I was going to make up something so that if you only look at this on one account, what you see. If you like something else, what you see. The influencers, how they manipulate what you see and what they feed back, thinking that they're selling ads. So hopefully by doing that more and addressing it more, there is another way of tackling it, not just by what information, but who sees it, and when you see it, do you recognize it as a manipulation?
Thank you. And now I'm the Faculty of Journalism in Spain, in Catalonia. So I'm working now in a dictionary of religious concepts and establish the minimum knowledge that journalists should have to regarding and the religious culture for enable a professionalism in this field. So which is this some words that didn't necessarily that to manage in terms of communicate according to the reality of the, and so this is important. And we're working this with the religious community and the government from Spain.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting.
Yes, I think I agree with Cindy that journalists and writers, they really play an important role to tackle with misinformation and disinformation. And we are following the different world platforms. One of them is World Economic Forum, and then they come up with 15 global risks for 2024, and misinformation and disinformation was one of the third global risks in the world. So for this reason, tomorrow, panel 2, we dedicated to information integrity on social media and mainstream media. So we have a great panel to talk about how we tackle with misinformation and disinformation that really divides people. And so we invite you all to panel 2 tomorrow, more on that. So
Thank you. I would add, as a particular religion journalist, that the complaint I hear most from religious organizations is a lack of religious literacy among journalists. And that comes down to specific interpretations, whether it's the Catholic Church or it's Islam or it's Judaism, that very often journalists who are good generalists might miss something quite key in an issue. And I hear that complaint very often from places in Australia. And I would also add that in Australia we now have a register of Islamophobia. Our Jewish Board of Deputies keeps records of attacks on synagogues. We have, people ripping hijabs off women in public because they think they can. And we have that sort of process going on in Australia as well. And it's a complex process. And it is something, I think, to do with religious literacy, again, about what you know or what you don't know and how we do that. And that's a complex sort of area.
This discussion is going on very good. It's very healthy discussion, even in the UK. So I'm from Switzerland. And that was the reason, I firmly believe that between cultures here, this is our responsibility to minimize and put this fear away in the participation. Also, the government is responsible for the integration. That was the reason I jumped into the politics, in Swiss politics. So I'm a candidate in the October elections in Switzerland. That these cultures, even I come from Basel city, so they have, these fears from Swiss mentality, Swiss culture, and the migrants, they come in. We have a lot of incidents which happened that has increased the hatred, like in the UK, what happened. This is mentioned. So this is also responsibility of the civil society, politicians, the government. Integration, dialogue, positive, to respect each other. This is my feedback according to this. I really appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
May I give a short response?
Absolutely.
It's for the UK in particular. I can't speak of other countries, but for the UK particularly, we witnessed the cancellation of government interest on interfaith relations. Our biggest interfaith organization in the UK. It's called Interfaith Network. It took 3 years for the last government to cancel all of their funding, all in one go. Zippo, gone. Everything taken offline. I am thinking that the people are better than that. If they need the voice from the people, I've set up my Peace Builders Network. Doesn't cost money. But I will show them how many people want to do this work, because they need that kind of pressure from the people to know that there is actually a call for unity instead of separation. So be it as may that they want to cancel out all the funding, let the people show them that there is a will, that we don't want conflict, we want to work together. And everybody get together for that.
Yeah, and in the same way, and we conducted also a study about the treatment of religious topics in news and how is the relationship that. And the major of the context is what relationship the religions with the violence and so all the problem. And so now one of the goals, the objects, especially in our case, is to relate to give another perspective that religious diversity may be to be positive for our society. And so that's why also have another research about the happiness and religions, how the religions can to provoke a happy in society. And so to give another perspective, I think it's necessary in our society.
Thank you. In our university, in Bedër University, we have a communication sciences department. I'm teaching also there with the Islamic department. We have a lot of students, former students that are now journalists, and the most investment in this way is training them on interreligious dialogue for many activities that happened in Albania, and we can look at this last year changing a lot the mentality of journalists in different media of Albania. Thank you.
I'll add one anecdote before I draw this to a close. I'd say this is a journalist, and journalists have their own domains. News is one thing, and documentaries another thing, and radio is another thing, and everybody wants their space and thinks they're better. It's a thing that happens among journalists. But I remember one day in Australia, not so long ago, watching our national news go to air, and on it they were talking about the Pope considering whether priests could marry. And they were talking about our local church and whether our bishop would allow, Catholic bishop would allow priests to marry. And as they were doing this, they were showing the Archbishop on television as they were talking about him. And I looked at the screen and I thought, that's the national news and that's the Anglican Archbishop. And I know his wife. And I had to go down to the newsroom. I was in the building. I said, ladies and gentlemen, you just put something to air which is not helpful. What? You got the wrong Archbishop. And that sort of thing could happen very easily because it was a young journalist who said, get the Archbishop, put the Archbishop, we need the Archbishop, so they did it. And those small things, that's a matter of religious literacy, actually, that the young person did not recognise that was a married Anglican bishop, not an unmarried Catholic one. That's just a small thing. That's not a big thing that's going to create a riot, you know what I mean? That's what gets people annoyed. But can I say, in terms of what we've heard today, we sort of dipped our toe on the. What do you want to say something? Please.
Just one lesson learned from Argentina, back south from Argentina. Sometimes pictures go further than words, and in fact, whatever that happened in Argentina, they all get together in pictures. The interfaith, the 3 or 4 religions, and they got to be together and to have pictures in the press and show them together. No words, just the image of other religion, watering that, and that's it. No words, but the image of the 3 of them.
Well, I'd add to that. The Pope has just visited near Australia. He's just been to New Guinea, to Indonesia, to major Muslim centres actually, where he was with the great Imam, the Grand Mufti in Jakarta. And they were signing major documents on interreligious dialogue and cooperation to avoid extremism. The point was that dialogue was necessary between Catholics and Muslims. And at a certain point, the Grand Mufti leaned over because the Pope was in and kissed him on the head. And the Pope grabbed the Mufti's hand and kissed his palm. And that image was very, very strong. The image was strong. But having said that, we thought, okay, we'll get in trouble. This has got to be the last one.
Sorry, but I'm Zoran from Macedonia, and I'm pretty much familiar and thankful for presentations from our colleagues from Albania and Bulgaria, especially statistics from professors from Spain, and I will tell about projects fulfilled from Britain. So aspiring projects, and I think that you should continue, and if there any chance, how to engage all of us as a part of this project. I just want to put a question about, because we are all guests of journalists and writers, and I guess we don't have any one of us problem with journalists that are professional, that are ethical and moral. All of us we have problem with people who are using information creating fake news that are not among this. So we have two approach how to fight with them. One is to attack directly these guys who are creating fake news, or other that personally I'm fond of to create for persons that will not react on this fake news. So let's keep working on these projects. I think that with youngsters we should continue, because grown men and personality are difficult to change, and they will be religious or not. They will keep this confrontation against other religion, how much we are trying to, and keep focused on children, because this is our perspective, and to have much more project on this area. So thank you again for this.
So I really want to realize. I thank you all. I think, as I was going to say, we've stepped our time. Fethullah Gulen has oriented Muslims to dialogue. That's one of the things he has done in brought into Islam. We now know that the Catholic Church since 1965 is trying to do it. The Orthodox have been doing it with Muslims in Albania forever. I think Bulgaria probably needs a little bit of work. It sounds like your clergy are a little bit like the Catholic Church before 1965, but you will get there, I'm sure. And it's a long process, and it's on so many levels, whether it's public knowledge or university level knowledge or exchange of government level knowledge. It's all those things. And even from the 4 examples we've seen there, we've seen how different a nation could be and how the experience could be and how their interfaith leaders are trying to deal with it. Then they have to bring it to a world stage and make sense of it to us as well from our own contexts. So I thank you all for what you've done today. Very fascinating. Thank you. And I thank you all for your time. And I'll hand it over.
I would like to thank the moderators, our speakers, for this amazing panel. I've learned a lot myself, and it's a great mind-opening with your presentations and information. I just would like to thank our organizers. I mean, not only Journalists and Rights Foundation, we appreciate all the things that you addressed to us, but I would like to thank Affinity International, Affinity Intercultural Foundation from Australia. Let's give them a round of applause. Cinde Institute from Albania. Religion for Europe in Cinde. At the same time, EU Erasmus program. We are so thankful for your participation.